The rain was tapping softly against the windows of St. Mary's Medical Center in Chicago. It was one of those gray mornings where everyone inside the hospital seemed to move a little faster than usual. You could hear the hurried squeak of nurses' carts, see doctors flipping through charts with intense focus, and the phones just never stopped ringing. At the main reception desk stood Emily Carter, one of the hospital's newest nurses. Emily was talented, no doubt about it. She was sharp, confident, and knew her stuff. But if you asked her coworkers, they might also say she was a little judgmental. Emily had this firm belief in the appearance of success. To her, a nice car in the parking lot meant a hard worker. An expensive watch on someone's wrist signaled an important person. And people who looked, well, poor. In her mind, they'd probably just made some bad life choices. On this particular morning, the automatic hospital door slid open, and a man stepped inside, shaking off the rain. He wore a pair of faded sneakers, the kind that have seen thousands of miles. His hoodie, while clean, was clearly old and worn. His hair was just a little messy. He looked out of place in the polished, sterile environment of the hospital lobby. He walked slowly toward the reception desk, clutching a small, simple paper envelope in his hand. Emily barely even looked up from her computer screen. "Visitors sign in on the tablet," she said, gesturing vaguely to her right without making any eye contact. The man offered a polite, gentle smile. "Actually, I'm not here to visit anyone," he said. "I just needed to ask a quick question." Emily let out a little sigh, the kind that says, "I'm too busy for this." "We're very busy this morning," she said, her tone sharp. "If you're looking for free treatment, the community clinic is 3 blocks south." The man paused for a moment, his smile never faltering. "I'm not here for charity," he replied gently. "I just wanted to see the pediatric wing, if that's possible." Emily finally looked at him properly, sizing him up. Her initial assessment was confirmed. Definitely not someone important. "The pediatric wing isn't open for tours," she said flatly, her voice leaving no room for argument, especially not to random walk-ins. The man simply nodded politely. "I understand," he said. "Thank you anyway." He turned around and quietly found an empty seat in the waiting area. Emily shook her head and leaned over to her coworker, Sarah. Every day, she whispered, trying to be discreet. "People come in here pretending they belong." Sarah didn't respond. She had noticed something that Emily, in her haste to judge, had completely missed. The man wasn't fidgeting or scrolling on his phone like most people in a waiting room. He wasn't nervous or impatient. He was just looking around, almost emotionally, like he was revisiting a powerful memory. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by an emergency call. A 9-year-old boy, Ethan Miller, was being rushed in, unconscious after a severe asthma collapse. The paramedics wheeled him straight into intensive care. A few moments later, his mother arrived, a whirlwind of fear and panic. She was crying, shaking, and could barely stand on her own. Emily, switching into professional nurse mode, guided her to a chair. "Your son's not breathing on his own yet," Emily explained, trying to be both direct and gentle. "The doctors are trying everything they can." The mother covered her face with her hands. I can't lose him," she sobbed. "He already survived leukemia last year." Her voice broke, and the raw pain in her words was palpable. In that moment, Emily softened. This was why she became a nurse, to help people in their darkest hours. Across the room, the quiet man in the hoodie stood up and slowly approached them. He kept a respectful distance, not wanting to intrude. "Excuse me," he said gently to the mother. "Is your son Ethan?" She looked up, her eyes red and swollen, and nodded weakly. "I saw the ambulance arrive," the man continued. May I sit with you for a moment?" Emily immediately frowned. This was highly inappropriate. "This area is for family only," she interrupted, her voice firm. But Ethan's mother stopped her. "It's okay," she whispered, gesturing for the man to sit. He took the seat beside her. "Ethan loves drawing superheroes," the mother whispered, as if sharing a sacred secret. "He thinks hospitals are scary places." The man smiled warmly, a genuine, comforting smile. "Then he's already a very brave boy," he said. And for the first time since she arrived, the mother smiled too. A tiny, fragile smile, but a smile nonetheless. Just then, a senior doctor, Dr. Matthews, rushed through the hall, his eyes scanning the waiting room. Then he stopped dead in his tracks, his gaze locked onto the quiet man in the hoodie. The doctor's expression changed instantly from hurried to one of complete surprise and respect. "Mr. Hale," "What?" he said, his voice cutting through the low hum of the lobby. The entire reception area went silent. Dr. Matthews walked quickly toward him. "Sir, we didn't know you were coming in today." Emily blinked. "Sir," the man, Mr. Hale, stood up. "I didn't want to cause any fuss, doctor. I just came to check on the progress of the children's wing." Emily's mind was racing, trying to connect the dots. Dr. Matthews turned to the hospital staff. "Please prepare my office immediately." Then he looked back at Mr. Hale with unmistakable reverence. "And thank you again, sir. None of this would exist without you." Emily felt her stomach tighten into a cold, hard knot. Later that day, still reeling from confusion, Emily walked down the main hallway. She passed the hospital's donor wall, a large, polished marble installation listing all the major contributors who had made St. Mary's what it was. And there, at the very top in shining gold letters, was a name: the Jonathan Hale Pediatric Center, funded by the Hale Foundation, $42 million. Below the text was a framed photograph. Emily's heart didn't just drop, it plummeted. It was him. The man in the worn hoodie, the quiet visitor she had dismissed so coldly, the random walk-in. He didn't just visit the hospital. He had built the very wing she had forbidden him from seeing. Emily soon learned the full story. 20 years earlier, Jonathan Hale had been a poor delivery driver. His younger sister had died because their small-town hospital couldn't afford the specialized pediatric respiratory equipment she needed. On that day, he made a promise to himself: no child would ever die again, simply because their parents weren't T-rich. He went on to create a massively successful medical technology company, and he donated the vast majority of his wealth, often anonymously, to children's hospitals all across the country, and he always made a point to visit them quietly, unannounced. Not to check on the buildings, but to make sure the patients were being treated with kindness. Not based on their bank accounts, but on their shared humanity. That evening, Emily found him sitting alone in a quiet corner outside the ICU. She hesitated, her throat dry. Then, she took a deep breath and walked over. I owe you an apology," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He looked up at her, his eyes not angry or judgmental, but calm and understanding. "You didn't know who I was," she stammered, trying to explain herself. He shook his head slowly. "That's not why you should apologize," he said gently. She looked at him, confused. He pointed softly, toward the pediatric ward. "Every single person who walks through those doors is scared," he said, his voice filled with a profound empathy. "They're worried about their child, their parent, their friend. They don't need to be impressed by us." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They need kindness first." Emily's eyes filled with tears as the truth of his words hit her with the force of a physical blow. At that moment, from inside the ICU, a new sound emerged. The machines connected to little Ethan Miller began to beep steadily, rhythmically. He was stable. He was breathing on his own. For the first time all day, a wave of real hope washed over the floor. And in that moment, Emily finally understood the most important lesson of her entire career. In a hospital, the richest person isn't the one with the biggest wallet. It's the one who treats a stranger with compassion. Sometimes the people who look like they have the least to give are the very ones who give the most. And sometimes the real test of our character isn't how we treat someone important. It's how we treat someone before we know their name. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more content that we hope can make a small difference. See you next time.